Hey guys, welcome to No Culty Vibes. I'm your host, Cassie Marie. And if you can't tell, I'm a little bit under the weather. We're going to push through though. I know I sound a little weird. I'm going to ask you to stick with me. If it is your first time to my channel, hello. At No Culty Vibes, we talk about all things cults and pop culture and trending topics and healing from undue influence and coercive control. And in this video today, we are going to be talking about IHOPKC and Mike Bickle and some updates to the allegations that have come out against him. Specifically, there are two new women that are publicly speaking out and sharing their stories of abuse and misconduct by Mike Bickle. One of these was a Jane Doe previously mentioned in other reports, and another one is sharing her full name. She is not going by Jane Doe, and this is a new woman we have never heard of before. So really quickly before we get started, this is a heavy topic, so I do want to give a warning to anybody who might be sensitive to topics of spiritual abuse or SA or anything like that. Please take care while watching or listening. Skip this if you do not have the capacity to do so. And if you are confused about what's going on, I am going to link in the description or the show notes, whichever platform you're listening on, after this to my timeline of events of these recent allegations against Mike Bickle and IHOPKC. IHOPKC stands for International House of Prayer in Kansas City, and it is a evangelical, charismatic, gifts of the spirit, prophetic, what I consider a cult. Not everybody considers it a cult. You could call it a high demand religion if you would like. I personally think it fits a lot of the criteria of a cult. But I have a timeline of events of this current scandal, everything Mike Bickle has been accused of, and just significant things that have happened since this past October. I also have an update after that of IHOPKC sharing their own investigation report. And this video is yet another update. I honestly didn't think that I was going to keep talking about IHOPKC this much, but a lot more has come out, and I think a lot more is going to come out. So before we get started, I hate doing this, but I keep forgetting to say these things. It's just awkward considering the content of this video, but like and subscribe if you do want to see more culty content, more pop culture trending topics, or if you're listening on podcasts, go ahead and follow, subscribe on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. And I apologize for the coughing that's inevitably going to happen during this live stream. If you're on the podcast, you're lucky, because I'll probably take all the coughs out. But we are going to start by going over some of the significant things that I noticed in the report that was released last night around 8 p.m. in the Kansas City Star News. A woman has come forward. I'm actually going to show you guys the report from Julie Roy's, the Roy's report, because I can't log on to the Star News. I think you have to subscribe to see a certain number of articles. I tried to read it. I read it on my phone earlier just fine. Now I can't read it on the computer, or it won't let me share my screen. I'm not sure which one. So we're going to go with the Roy's report. And this, like I said, the Roy's report came out today, but this other report came out last night. Let me get it on here. So a woman claims that Mike Bickle SA'd her when she was 14 years old. This is an escalation of previous reports. Before, we were dealing with women that were much younger than Mike Bickle, but they were not minors at the time of the SA, the clergy abuse, things like that. They were significantly younger than him in previous reports that we have heard, but they were not this young. So this has been shocking to a lot of people and extremely upsetting. I am not going to go through the whole story. I'm going to give you the highlights, and I'm going to tell you some things that I found really interesting about this from a cult perspective, from a cult leader perspective. But one, I don't want YouTube to take this video down. And two, I just don't feel the need to rehash all the details of this woman's story when you can go read it on the Roy's Report or on the Kansas City Star. So we're going to hit the highlights. Basically, what happened is a Michigan woman is accusing IHOPKC founder Mike Bickle of SAing her 43 years ago. This was back in the 80s when she was just 14 years old and Bickle was pastoring a church in St. Louis. This was before he started IHOPKC, so these are some of the earliest accounts that we have heard. This woman is named Tammy Woods. She is going by her name, although I believe that's her maiden name, not her married name. She's not going by Jane Doe, and we will talk a little bit more about that later. You can obviously read how disturbing this is, of some of the things that he did. Again, please watch this with care. She tells the story of how this started when she was babysitting for the Bickle family, and she wanted to make sure that it was known because in IHOP cases, this is their third-party investigation. I guess you would consider it a third-party investigation, although IHOP KC hired a lawyer to investigate this whole situation, and there were some issues of what that lawyer is interested in, the truth or protecting IHOP, which if you've been on X or if you've been following this at all, you've seen some of the discourse. If you haven't, you can see my previous videos for that. In that report, Mike Bickle admitted that he had sexual contact with a Jane Doe around 2002, 2003, but claimed it involved her touching me, but not me touching her, which everyone felt was so odd. And Tammy Woods did make sure to say when she was talking to the Kansas City Star that he did touch Tammy and he would move her hand to touch him, and he also did touch her in return. So she didn't want Mike Bickle to be able to say anything about her story. She also talked about why she's coming forward now. I don't know if I should say this now or just go over a little bit. I'll talk about it now because it's this way in the article. But she said that she was willing to keep Mike Bickle's secret up until literally now, up until very, very recently, because she thought she was the only one. And it wasn't until she read Jane Doe's statement and then was angered by this third-party investigation report, which came out about a week ago, that she realized that Mike Bickle had been manipulating her this whole time because she saw so many similarities in Jane Doe's statement and what happened to her. And this is actually really common with cult survivors of any kind. I noticed this in cult survivor stories. A lot of things can happen to us while we're in a cult. There's a lot of things that women in particular will put up with when it's happening to themselves personally. A lot of abuses, a lot of things that they will write off, give people the benefit of the doubt. But it's often when people see the harm being done to someone else where they draw the line and they're willing to stop and either leave or speak out or stand up for themselves, etc. So I thought that was really interesting that this woman, Tammy, was being manipulated and was willing to sacrifice and be manipulated by Mike Bickle literally up until she realized that she was not the only one, that he was harming other women and has been doing this for literal decades since he did this to her. She just happened to be the first that we know of. So I'm going to put this back up here and scroll a little bit. So it started with babysitting. She detailed how Mike Bickle took a particular interest in her when he met her, and he would have her over to babysit the kids on Monday nights when Mike and Diane would go out for date nights. And then one time, Mike Bickle was alone in the car with this woman, Tammy, and he pulled over and asked her if she had feelings for him. And she was really young and kind of thought this older guy that she had a crush on. Like, it's very confusing when you're that age and someone is giving you special attention like that. And she said yes. And Mike Bickle said that he had feelings for her too. And it just kind of escalated from there. Like I said, you can read this yourself if you want. I'm not going to hash out anything, or I'm not going to hash out specifics. Excuse me. I also think that this is super interesting from the perspective of Mike and IHOPKC trying to deny this or spin this a different way. Tammy Woods came to Star News with receipts. She had family members corroborate her story. She had friends from back then corroborate her story. And then we will see what else she has to corroborate her story later. But she had people just talk about the red flags they saw at the time and then now. And this talks about, okay, so this was another really weird thing. When Tammy Woods decided it was time to speak out, she first learned of the new allegations against Mike Bickle in October because a supervisor at her church in Michigan called her to inform her of these allegations against him because she knew the supervisor at her church knew that she had a relationship with Mike Bickle, like she knew him. So Tammy Woods texted Mike Bickle with 3 question marks, and he reportedly texted back that people were saying false things about him. So Tammy Woods had contact with Mike Bickle this past October when these things came out. And he said that if anyone comes and asks her questions or wants her to make a statement, you can tell them he's the godliest man. And I want to know, any of you guys, if you're watching, if you've been following along with this, do you remember hearing that anywhere else? Because the second I read that, I was like, huh. She said that's the script that he gave her. And I vaguely remember hearing that somewhere else. In the Roy's report, she remembers that she heard that somewhere else too. So Tammy Woods told the Star that Mike Bickle started texting her more frequently after that, and even showed her the statement he released in December admitting to an inappropriate relationship with one of the Jane Does. And she even helped him like craft that a little bit. She like gave him feedback on it before he posted it. So he was in constant contact with her. And then she realized that he had been in contact with her during various times in her life when she was having a difficult time. And she realizes it was to make sure that she didn't crack and tell her story. Guys, that is like classic cult leader, extreme narcissist. One of the characteristics of being in a cult or being in a relationship or a parasocial relationship, even with an unhealthy or toxic guru, is they have a really intense come here, go away attitude, and they will love bomb you at certain times, usually when they need something from you, or it's usually when they need something from you. And then when they don't, they tend to push you away. And this really reminded me of that. And the fact that he felt comfortable enough to talk to her now as all of these allegations are coming out, I think that Mike Bickle, the reason he's been so vehemently denying everything and not wanting these things to come out is because he is the one who knows how many women he did this to. And he probably realizes the more women that speak up and share their stories, the more women will see parallels in it, just like Tammy Woods. And she said not only did she realize she was being duped and she realized that he was harming other women, but she had started lying to other people in her life. And she was like, he can't control me anymore. I can't keep lying to people. So she came out and told her story to her pastors. She also retained attorney Boz Chivijan, I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, who is representing the primary Jane Doe as her legal counsel. And she reported her case to the police, which she said she doesn't expect much due to statute of limitations, but she put it on the record with police. So I'm really interested how IHOPKC or Mike Bickle are going to try to spin this any which way, because I feel like this story has the most corroboration. She has filed a police report and she has receipts. She has recent communications and recent text messages from him, which, yeah, I don't know how they're going to talk around that. So back to her script that if anyone reaches out to her, she can just say he's the godliest man. Where I remember hearing that is statements from the alleged Jane Does or the Jane Doe group that claims they are not Jane Does. So Woods said, what did she say? Okay, so she told the Star, this is not who I am, and I can't do this. And then I realized he's doing this to these younger women, all of them. And I think the alleged Jane Does felt a little bit called out by that because they posted today on X, on Twitter, we want to reiterate, in light of Tammy's allegation statement, and then I realized he's doing it to these younger women, all of them, that we are not Mike Bickle's victims. We have no comment on the allegations of other women, only that we are not among them. So included in that group is Misty Edwards and April Rose. Misty Edwards posted on Instagram in October when all of this broke. In my personal experience, Bickle has only ever been godly. Now that Tammy is suggesting that she was given a script, I just have to ask. I just have to point that out and ask, does that sound like a script other people were given? So another one of the alleged victims, April Rose, worked closely with Bickle for years as a researcher, also posted on social media. I thought she also posted that Mike Bickle was godly, but she said that he's one of the purest, if not the purest man I've ever gotten to know. I have found him actually to have a childlike innocence that many people might misinterpret for something else because we live in such a P word, cornified society. A third alleged victim who also deleted her Facebook post, Kathy Schlesinger, also said, I have found Mike to be upstanding in honor and laser focused on the assignment God has given to him, operating with an intense fear of the Lord. These so-called evidences regarding my life experience are manufactured and manipulated for the sake of someone else's agenda. So wild, guys. Really wild information coming out. I don't like the Jane Does who claim to not be Jane Does. I don't even care, about accusing them of being Jane Does. What I'm curious about and upset about is the similarities to Tammy saying she was being given a script. So whether they are Jane Does or not, whether they have been harmed by Mike Bickle or not, it sounds like they were also given a script to defend him. And why would he be going around passing out scripts for people unless he's a cult leader and is manipulating them, and et cetera, et cetera. So today, so this was posted last night. Today, we got another public statement. I'm going to put this up here like this, so hopefully you can read it. I'm going to read through all of this, and I took my face away because I have to pull it up on another page because I can't see it on my little screen here. So this is a public statement from a Jane Doe who was included in the original report. And I'm going to read to you what this says. So Jane Doe public statement in October of 2023, I spoke with the advocacy group, giving them permission to use my testimony in the initial report regarding the predatory behaviors of Mike Bickle. While I've wanted to remain anonymous in the public eye, it has become clear that a great deal of confusion has arisen over the multiple uses of the name Jane Doe. And I agree with her. This has been really confusing, which is why I put together the timeline in the first place. So any clarity that people decide to use, I think, is helpful in this situation. She goes on to say, so in the interest of clarity, I am writing my account with the use of my initials, TH. In October, I echoed the sentiments of the advocacy group that called for an independent third-party investigation into the predatory behaviors of Mike Bickle. It is my firm belief that an independent investigation is still greatly needed, as the recent report released by IHOPKC, written by Lathrop and Rosalie McNamara, was insufficient and woefully misleading. While I do not wish to speak on the misleading nature of the report as a whole, I am writing this statement to provide a brief and clear explanation of my experience in this matter and to clarify the blatant misrepresentation of my voice in the McNamara report. In Section 2, Subsection 3 of the Lathrop report, McNamara refers to me as a third Jane Doe and states, my understanding is that this woman does not want to be on any list. This is an overt mischaracterization of the truth, as I corresponded with Rosalie on January 3rd and told her that I would happily share my story as soon as the advocacy group and IHOPKC were able to agree upon an independent third-party investigation. Which again is wild because we commented in the last update, and several people on X have commented about how short this investigation has been. So on January 3rd is when Rosalie first contacted this Jane Doe, and the report was released by the end of January? That's nuts. Again, I'm so sorry that I'm sick and having to push through this. Again, people on the podcast are going to be lucky that I can cut it out. So she goes on to say, then in the report, Rosalie proceeded to include false assertions made by my ex-husband on my behalf. In no way do the words of my ex-husband, who himself was recently banned from the IHOPKC premises over his own sexual misconduct allegations, reflect my experience. To seek out and give credence to his claims was extremely negligent and resulted in an audacious misrepresentation of the truth. Holy cow, guys. Did you hear where? Go back. Oh my God. The investigative reporter hired by IHOPKC didn't interview this Jane Doe. She reached out to her. The Jane Doe said, I will be happy to talk to you once everybody agrees on an independent third party. In her report, she said, Jane Doe does not want to be included on any list. Does that sound true and accurate as a non-biased third-party investigator? And then she interviewed and included statements from her ex-husband, who he himself has sexual misconduct allegations. Who does that? What kind of investigator on what planet would find that appropriate? That is genuinely the most shocking thing that I thought came out of these last 2 days with these new statements. I don't know if that's just me. That is wild, especially with all the questioning that has been going around since the beginning over the Lathrop Group and Rosalie McNamara being an appropriate investigator in the first place. To do something so inappropriate and misrepresent what was said, and including statements, guys, please let me know if anyone else thinks that this is as ridiculous as I think it is. I need to move to the next. I need to show this back. Add to stage. That she didn't want her name included on any list. So wild. I cannot believe this. Twitter or X or whatever you call it is abuzz today with all of this stuff going on. I've seen rumors and rumblings and talk that there is more that is going to come out. Eric Voles, who I said in my last update, said that he has removed himself from being a spokesperson for IHOPKC because they are out of crisis mode and they are transitioning into moving forward and making the ministry better moving forward. He said IHOPKC was a safe place and said he wasn't going to be speaking for them anymore. He posted a statement for them today. Not General Kurt Fuller, who is supposedly representing IHOPKC now, who has stepped in as the leader of IHOPKC. Nope, it was Eric Bowles, who made the statements and basically was like, well, we didn't know about this one, guys. We didn't know about it. How we known about it, things might be different. I don't think IHOPKC is out of crisis mode. People are calling now for an independent third-party investigation now more than ever. Again, I don't think IHOPKC is going to comply with one. I don't think they're going to do that. They said they would be open to it, but I don't think they are. I think IHOPKC is not a safe place, and for many reasons besides just these recent allegations, which I've said in every one of my videos. And yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out. Obviously, this is sad and terrible. I mean, this really shows both of these accounts were from early on. Mike Bickle has been doing this for decades. He groomed women. He assaulted women. He did it from when they were a young age. He targets women that are much younger than him, and he grooms them to do inappropriate things with him. He lies and says that he feels bad about it, and then he just carries on and moves to the next person. And he started this whole ministry, this whole prayer movement, and has used it as a way to continue grooming young women for his sick and twisted benefits. I don't know what else is going to come out. Like, I don't know what else there is after this. I truly don't. But that is the latest update. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts, questions. Have you been following this? Have you seen what's going on? Let me know in the comments. If you're on the replay, let me know what you think. And that's it. I guess I'll be back if we hear something else. And make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for the next pop culture trending topic culty video. Bye, guys.